Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews, and we are blowing out the audio. How about that? That better? I don't know how that happened. I must have touched the amplifier a little bit. Boy, that blew it out. Anyway, welcome to the channel. It is September 16th, Saturday. We're in football season, so welcome to the PilotJam for Saturday. And it was a rough football game last night. Boy, we got our doors blown out, but we didn't. We had no offense. We couldn't get any points on the board. Defense did pretty good. Held the other team to 20, but we were stuck. We couldn't get that offense moving. Anyway, Stephen Beatty was first. Hello. It looks like we have a new player in the first game. So Freddie came in not too long after that. D. Griffiths is here. Hello, D. Griffiths. How you doing, Fred? Glad you can make it. Mark Dre was third, and indeed he was. No, he was fourth, actually. Fourth. I counted Stephen Fast, Freddie, and then Dan, and then Mark. Little one-on-one, fourth day or fifth. Henry, how are you? Bradley Norton made it in. Hello, everybody. Enrique is here from Panama. How you doing, Enrique? William Tam says hello. Jeff H is here from Australia. How you doing, Jeff? Hobie Kenobi is in the house. How you doing, Shane, man? Good to see you. And Wooter Vandenbroek. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Vandenbroek, maybe. Evening all. I think he's from Holland. So if you check in, make sure you say hello. If you sign in, let's see who's out there. And we'll get into we have a little bit to get into tonight. We're gonna fly a little low and slow. It's kind of a technical week this week. Did some bench stuff and some bench testing and had a good time. You know, some good content. I think some good information went out there. We talked a little bit about ExpressLRS, a little bit about EdgeTX, did a little experimenting with SD cards, and there we go. So anyway, we're going to get into the week in review first, and that would start with the videos that we did on the bench. And the first one was the OpenTX. No, it wasn't OpenTX. It was ExpressLRS Channel 5 arming. And here's the thing about the arming. I know when I post ExpressLRS videos, I know that Bry, who's one of the primary developers on ExpressLRS, he kind of checks my work. And by the way, I run things by him. I check with him before I post a lot of things if I need some clarification or if I don't know 100% or if I need to understand a little bit behind what's going on, I'll ping him and ask. And he's been really very helpful, very supportive. So, Bri, thanks a lot. Appreciate you. And, of course, when it came to arming, you know, I did run some things by him. And I think one of the tidbits I would share on the arming bit is that when it comes to arming, I know it's a discussion point. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do. I know that it's up. There are some discussions, right, about what to do about this aux thing. I know there's some camps in ExpressLRS that say don't do anything. It's fine. It works. You know, don't worry about it. And there are others. You know, there are other elements that say, hey, you know, we have to make accommodations for this Channel 5 issue, and you know. So, bottom line is that I don't think we're in the final state. That's the bottom line. I think there's more to come on this subject, but I don't know what the final incarnation will be. What I'm praying for is that Channel 5 or the arming channel itself, the arming feature, will be remappable. That's what I hope. You know, like, why can't they just put it on channel 16? Like, if they put it on channel 16, Betaflight can read that and it doesn't care. And I've never seen a gyro that cares about anything really above channel 7. Or no, actually, I lied. The SXR receivers from FreeSky, I believe they look at channel 12. I think it's channel 12 for calibration. So that's about as high as I've seen a gyro care about in terms of channel order. But I've never seen anything up in that 15, 16 range. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, is that they look at a remap option for where the arming signal goes out. That's what I'm kind of got my fingers crossed for that one. All right, R32 Peck says hello from PA. Hello from Florida. Mr. Blue Sky, hello everyone. Bill is here. How you doing, Bill? Glad you could make it. Robert's here from Canada. Robert's posting fall and autumn pictures up in the Discord. They got some yellow leaves in Canada, man. It's already turning, man. It's September. It's fall. It's football season. We're actually, the temperature's starting to come down a little bit in Florida, so it's getting a little bit more pleasant outside, and we're definitely starting to see those fall colors show up in Canada. And I know the weather's going to get nuts up there for those guys pretty soon. We're going to start seeing that white stuff on the ground. Patrice Duquesne says bonjour. Bonjour à tous. Hello, Patrice. Thank you for saying hello. Let's see. Mr. Blue Sky got him. William Cox is here. How you doing, Bill? Glad you could make it. And that's it. Little chit chat. Okay, so that's it on the ExpressLRS arming. I guess the bottom line, and we'll talk a little bit about this in logging in the logging section I have tonight. But for me, the bottom line is pretty simple, and that's that if you need channel 5, put it in 16 divided by 2 and ignore the damn thing. That's a pretty simple answer to me. And I know that some of the guys did some testing and verified that dynamic power does actually work even without the arms stayed on the transmitter. But there are some caveats with relation to telemetry and dynamic power. So my answer simply is just set it at 100 milliwatts or 250 milliwatts and go fly. Just don't worry about it. I think that's my final answer. And I would also say that Brian came in after the fact and said, yeah, this is pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate description on that video. So I feel good about it, and I stand by that advice. In fact, I would give you guys, for those of you here on the PilotJam flying line of sight with ExpressLRS, what I would say to you is that your settings, and these are the settings that I would probably be using if I need to claim channel 5, are 333 hertz, 16 divided by 2, standard telemetry, dynamic power turned off, set the power to 250 or 100, depending on what you think you need, and just to go enjoy your airplane and have a good time flying. And use channel 5 however you find it necessary to use it. So there you go. So 16 divided by 2 means have resolution. 16, that's just a reference to packet rate. So at 333 hertz, when they say 16 divided by 2, what they're saying is you get 16 channels at a packet rate that's divided by 2. So if your packet rate's 333, you divide that by 2, that means you get 166 hertz, which is still ridiculously, insanely, ludicrously fast. So if you're at 166 hertz, that's just absolutely ridiculously fast. You can't move your sticks. No, it doesn't have anything to do with resolution. It has to do with speed. It's packet rate, not resolution. Resolution doesn't change. It's 10 bits, 10 bits, 10 bits. Every bit of the resolution on fully proportional channels is 10 bits. There are some channels in some switch modes, like a hybrid mode, where the resolution changes, and so that's different. But at 16, we use the phrase fully proportional. So in 16 divided by 2, you are fully proportional on all 16 channels. So full 10-bit resolution. Okay? Full, and they actually say in the description it's CRSF extended limits. So that's what they say in the book. Anyway, those are my recommendations for flying line of sight, and I've got the data to back it up, so I'm comfortable with that. Next video was the OpenTX is dead video, and that one was really, that was kind of a sad video to make, but I was really interested in some of the comments that came afterwards, and I'm kind of amazed at the hangers-on. There are a lot of people that are still sticking with OpenTX. They say that EdgeTX gives them problems, and hey guys, don't do football scores, man. That's not cool. I haven't watched the game yet. That's on now, man. Don't do football scores. I'm gonna block you. I'm gonna block you if you do football scores, man. No football scores. We're watching the Gators game after the video is over. Don't give up scores. Anyway, OpenTX, I was really surprised how many people are still really devoted to it, and how many people say, well, I have problems running EdgeTX. I don't like EdgeTX. Not enough difference for me to do EdgeTX, so they're sticking with it. A lot of conversation on that. And at the end of the day, just like I said in the video, it's all good. If you want to use, it's your money, your hobby. You're not wrong. So if you choose to use OpenTX over Edge, then do that. It's your call. Do your thing. And there's certainly nothing wrong with running OpenTX. Then the next video was the Spec Nerds Listen Up, and I did want to show you guys something on that too, by the way. I'm gonna bring up the overhead camera, and I wanted to show you that this is one of those stories where I eat my own dog food. I actually went ahead after doing that video. One thing that really surprised me was the difference in the class speeds. I really didn't think that the bus had enough for it to matter, but I don't know, maybe it matters when it's actually writing, but I actually did it. So it's kind of sad to me, but you really can't get these faster cards in very small formats anymore. But these are cheap. It was like $8 for this thing. So even though it's a 32 gig card, it's partitioned at 2 gigs in 4K block size. It's a 2 gig. So for all intents and purposes, I converted that to a 2 gig card, and that's a 4K block size, and that's that. It's That's what I have in both of my radios right now. This is my production fixed wing, and I've got a helicopter radio, same card. So I figured I'd show you guys that, just to let you know that I don't just talk about this stuff. You know, when I see a result that I can measure, you know, that I can repeat and measure, then I do it. You know, I eat my own dog food. I actually utilize the techniques that I show. So that was it on the Spec Nerds, how to get the best SD card performance. And also I would say that a lot of guys came in after that video and said the same thing. They're like, hey, I was having problems. I did this and holy cow, it works. So thanks a lot. And we'll talk about this in the Q&A. I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis on this, but we'll talk a little bit about what happens going even smaller. 32 rugby. Shane says rugby, multitasking, huh? I know where you live, Shane. I just want you to know that, man. Do not give up football scores. I will find you and give you a pink belly. Midwest RC says, I spent all day trying to get a Castle ESC to ARM. No luck. Those Castle ESCs are unique, man. They have some interesting characteristics and programming parameters. I never really. I mean, I know they're. No, I don't want to get into Castle. All I can say, I have limited experience with Castle ESCs, and it wasn't great. It was okay, like they were okay, but not. I wasn't impressed. They seem very, I'll just say convoluted. How's that? That's probably the best way to put it. All right, and then of course the last video was the PilotJam. It was PilotJam. So 4 videos this week. Oh, no flying. I couldn't. You know, Dave's out of town. Freddie's been recovering, so no flight videos. Although I did go flying today. I had a nice time. We'll talk a little bit about that. In fact, I've got some data. We'll pull up some data. I thought we'd show you that. So I did get a little bit of flying and had a nice time. I flew the Avanti, and I'll tell you something about that Avanti. Every single time I fly that plane, I like it more and more and more. The thing that impresses me so much about that plane is I get 7 minutes, and I'm kind of flogging it a little bit. You know, I'm kind of beating on it a little bit, but I'm still getting 6.5 to 7 minutes on that plane. And for a jet, that's pretty good. You just don't see that very often on EDF jets. And I think that Avanti 80 millimeter, I'm impressed. And it is a really straight flying plane. You know, it's directionally very straight. I like it. Very good, very easy to see, very maneuverable, very crisp and clean. And I'm getting the landings down pretty nice now. You know, I have full flaps and come down at that nose down angle, and then flare a little bit of power, kind of high alpha a little bit down the runway, set it down on the mains. It's beautiful. I like it. I've been enjoying that Avanti, I'll tell you that. Okay, that's it for the chit chat piece. That's the week in review, and I'm going to check comments before we get on, and then we'll go. So Mr. Blue Sky says, I still need to redo my SD cards on both my TX16S. Awesome video. Thank you. Yeah, and it actually works. I did both of mine. I ordered the cards and did them both today. I was using, for a long time, let me pop these out. I originally bought these. And they were fine. I mean, it wasn't like it was a problem, but they're only class 1 cards. And I did see a speed difference in copying, which surprised me. I was really surprised to see that because I figured the interface between the radio and the reader would be too slow for it to matter, but I did see a difference. Now, in fairness, these cards perform just fine. They perform, but if you're trying to maximize performance, then my data showed that the U3 cards did the trick. And the 4 gig partition, again, I don't want to get ahead of my skis because we're going to cover it in the Q&A, but one of the questions came with, what about the partition size? What happens if you go smaller? So let's see. Robert says, remote ID day, live or die. Didn't you guys hear that they extended remote ID enforcement for 6 months because they're stupid and because they need manufacturers to have more time and because hopefully everyone's still ignoring their dumbass on remote ID? I refuse to be triggered about it tonight, Robert. I'm not going to get into a diatribe on remote ID, but my advice would be continue to ignore those idiots. Just ignore them. You know, don't buy them. Flight Test is selling their ID for $100. Spectrum's got one out. Just ignore them, man. Don't buy them. Screw them. Just ignore them. Don't do it. That's my don't do it. Don't do it. But yeah, they delayed the remote ID enforcement, I guess. So yeah, everyone's gonna have fun with the remote ID thing. I'm not playing their game. Not playing. All right, let's get into content. First up, dynamic power. So I thought, given the conversation that we had around dynamic power, I thought we'd spend a minute talking about it because a lot of people get into this question about, well, if you disable dynamic power or turn it off, what happens, and how does dynamic power work? So I thought it'd be fun to spend a little bit of time just actually taking a look at it. So I've got a link up for you guys. I will put these links in the descriptions. I don't have them in there now. Wait, look at, isn't Microsoft Edge like always begging, please make us your default browser? No, I don't want you to be my default browser. Always begging, man. Every time you run Edge, it wants to be your default browser. Anyway, I thought we'd take a little look at dynamic power on ExpressLRS and give you guys an idea of how it starts and what causes it to go up, because this is going to lead a little bit into logging. All right. So I wanted to kind of set the stage for the next topic, and that's by talking a little bit about what dynamic power is in the first place. And the tech and the data that they're looking at on the radio or on the receiver link in order to determine when a change to dynamic power needs to occur. So this is coming straight off the ExpressLRS wiki or their documentation. There's a couple of different details about dynamic power. There's starting power, and it says when the module is turned on, transmit power is set to minimum. For lowering power, they use the signal to noise ratio, and I'm going to go ahead and appeal to the ExpressLRS folks to maybe rewrite some of this, because they say in here that if the signal to noise ratio is above a threshold, the power will be lowered by 1 level. Signal to noise ratio is used because it takes into account interference or the noise signal, the noise in signal to noise. It's not affected by receivers with LNAs, which boost RSSI. The thresholds for lowering the power are specific to the packet rate. For example, 250 hertz will lower the power if SNR is below 9.5, but at 150 hertz, it will lower the power if signal noise is less than 8.5. Now, save this for a little while, because what I'm telling you is that signal to noise ratio is a factor in the decision-making process on when to lower power and when to raise power. So it'll raise power, the opposite of lowering. The idea is to gradually raise power. That's the main idea, so that if you're flying at altitude and you're flying away, it'll gradually step up the power as you need it. The algorithms are the same, except with different thresholds. For example, at 150 hertz lower, it raises the power if signal noise is less than 0. At 250 hertz, it raises the power if signal noise is less than 3. And then to be proactive, when telemetry is not received, this is another key that will cause your power to go up. Dynamic power will increase 1 level for each missed telemetry packet, starting when two are missed back to back. So when the TX misses 1 telemetry packet, no action, maintain power level. When the TX misses a second telemetry packet, increase 1 power level. And when it misses a third, increase it again. And I also know that it will also slam the power level up. So like if you have your radio turned on and you've got a link and you disconnect the receiver, you'll notice it'll slam the T power up unless you're disarmed. So if the LQ ever drops below the hard limit, 50% link quality, we'll talk a little bit about link quality in a minute. Hang tight, we'll get there. If you don't know what that means, the power will jump to the max. If the LQ drops suddenly in a single telemetry compared to the moving average, this is intended to react to flying behind a structure where the LQ takes a hit. Example, LQ is running as 100%, and ExpressLRS does the most as ExpressLRS does under most conditions, which I would say is very true. It runs at a very high LQ. And the TX receives the telemetry packet with 80% LQ, the power will jump to the max. So it kind of slams the dynamic power to the floor. Down to, it's like mashing the gas pedal, so to speak. So those are the conditions in which dynamic power boosts itself, right? In case you were wondering, if you didn't know, again, I'll put a link for this in the description if you'd like to read it and take your time, maybe studying it a little bit. There was also some conversation about using power on a switch, and you can do that as well. You can enable dynamic power via switch. So when an aux channel is high, and this was a little bit of a cheat. Honestly, this is a little bit of a cheat that says, hey, if you're going to steal channel 5 for something else, you kind of could put dynamic power on a different switch if you wanted to do that. You can use aux 9 through 12. So just throwing that out there, another option for utilizing, and it does work. I tested it. So just remember, you have to add 4. So if they say aux 9, they're saying channel 13. They say aux 12, you have to add 4. They're saying channel 16. Okay, just keep that in mind. You have to add 4 to these. So you can actually put dynamic power enabled when the aux channel is high, and the power is fixed to the max power when that switch is low. Okay, so you can turn dynamic power on and off with a switch if you choose to do that as well. Okay, so that was dynamic power. Now let's talk a little bit about signal strength, because again, this kind of sets us up for understanding what the deal is with LQ, for example, and it also, again, is our segue into logging that I want to cover. I want to cover some stuff on logging with you guys tonight. So there are 2 types of signal health. Received signal strength indicator, it's how loud the reception is. RSSI must be above the sensitivity level to be understood. So think about what's going on right now. If you're in an environment where you can understand what I'm saying, that's your RSSI. There's separation from the noise around you and my voice. So your sensitivity level, your ears can pick up my voice, and in theory, you can hear what I'm saying. That's RSSI. That's what RSSI is. On link quality, that has to do with how many packets are actually understood. So imagine while we're having this conversation and Hobie's watching the football game and his wife is sitting next to him with the blowhorn, and because he called out a score in the middle of a live stream, she shot him in the ear with that blowhorn. That means he might miss a word. That's link quality. So even though the noise sensitivity hasn't changed and the loudness of the broadcast hasn't changed, you still missed a packet because something happened. There was some kind of interference. And so there's a link, that's link quality. That goes to link quality. How many packets are actually understood? And that is one of the ones that really matters. Now, the advice is, which one do I care about? And they say technically both, because link quality is important because you can't fly if you don't receive packets. If you don't understand packets, right? You can't fly. RSSI is important because it tells you how close you are to the receiver not being able to receive the packets at all. And so if you combine both of those factors together, now you have a pretty good story on when you should actually increase your power or when you're heading for a radio issue. And by the way, this is one of the things I just love about ExpressLRS. You get this data, they show it, they log it. You can log this stuff. You can look at it. You can see, it's not hard to turn on logging and look at the log and say, oh, I see what happened here, because you get the data. So anyway, that's it on the RQI. That's all I really wanted to cover on LQ and RSSI, was to let you know there are really three variables, right? You got link quality, RSSI, and signal to noise. And if you have a choice, you want RSSI and link quality. And by the way, I can assure you that the algorithms that determine dynamic power are very well understood by the team. So you really don't need to do anything. If you're using dynamic power, it just works. And you can have it's pretty safe to bet on that, okay? So the next thing I wanted to do is talk about, I said, I think I would encourage them to do a little bit of a rewrite. And here's why I said that. If you ask about signal to noise ratio, they say in the documentation regarding signal health, so this is on the signal health page, it says SNR stands for signal noise ratio, compares RSSI dBm to RF background noise level. Notice it compares the background noise level, not the sensitivity limit. The value is, this is the part that I think needs to be written. It says the value is of limited usefulness because the RF chip can only approximate the noise level, yet it is one of the primary determinants of when dynamic power is actually used and the thresholds in which it changes. That's why I think they need to do a little rewrite here, because it seems counterintuitive or contradictory to me to say that one of the primary methods that we use to determine where transmit power needs to be is right here. We are raising power if the signal to noise ratio is 3 or 0. And then on the page that describes signal to noise ratio, they say the value is of limited usefulness. So I think that's a little bit of a contradiction. And I would hopefully maybe they could clarify. I'm sure I understand the point, but maybe it just needs to be clarified a little bit, because it seems like it's not limited usefulness. It's actually primarily used in determining transmit power when you're using dynamic power, right? So maybe that's just an area that could be cleaned up a little bit, or maybe explained. Maybe they can embellish on that some. Maybe that would help. So anyway, those are the three factors that we'll talk about in the logging that we're going to get into in just a moment. You've got RSSI, you've got link quality. And by the way, link quality, let me find link quality again. That's the one I really pay attention to the most. And the reason I pay attention to this one the most is because in a conversation I had with Brian, we were talking, I said, how low can you go on link quality? And he said, well, let me ask you a question. He said, if you went down to 5 packets per second, would that be enough to fly the plane? And I said, well, yeah, sure. I mean, 5 packets per second update, that would be enough to fly. Now, would that be enough to be like a smooth 3D pilot or do an F3A competition? Maybe not, but you could fly the plane. He goes, so an RQOI, RQ or link quality, RQOI of 5% is still viable. Think about that. 5%, 5%. Think about it. When he said that, I was like, that's when I started having this V8 moment with ExpressLRS. Like, holy crap, this is good tech. It is good tech. Good tech. So anyway, that's it on that part. I'm going to go back to the desktop. We're going to visit the desktop real quick. We're going to switch gears, but I wanted to kind of lay that as a baseline and give you guys some information and show you where you find this stuff, right? I don't make this stuff up. I'm just kind of reading what they put out there, what they do in terms of documentation. All right, so that was dynamic power. The next up is logging. Okay, perfect. So we can go into the logging section now, and what I wanted to do on logging, there's a couple of different things I want to do. The first one is we're going to start in the workspace. What I want to do is show you, we're going to look at companion, and I've got logs. And by the way, one other thing, because I want to tie some things together for you guys. One other thing I want to bring up here is, oh, there's my logging. We were talking about the size. We were talking about the size of the SD card and how big of a card you need. And what I wanted to, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this video, whoops, I got my little behind the scenes curtain action going on there with the questions. Okay, so this little section right here, this little log window, let me minimize companion so we can focus on what's going on here. On this little window, you can see that my size on disk for my logs is 11 megabytes. Here's why I bring this up. When I said in the video, you can have an SD card that is 2 gigs or 4 gigs or 1 gig or 500 megabytes or whatever, I told you that the default install of EdgeTX was 76 megabytes. And then if you add, in terms of incremental data from that point on, such as logs, for example, in my case, my log entries are 11 megabytes, and I log everything. So we would go from 76 to 87 megabytes, which means we still have plenty of storage space using a 256 megabyte card. So I'm kind of trying to tie some themes together for you guys tonight. This is my log data, and I can show you that I pull my logs off of my radios from time to time. And I don't keep every single log, but this is a pretty substantial collection of log data. You know, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of flying on these logs, and I drag them on my desktop from time to time so I can take a look at them, so I can evaluate them. And here's a big folder with a lot of log data, right? And in fact, this one goes back quite a bit, 723, 812. So, you know, these things go back a little ways. And I only wanted to show you that even with the 256 megabyte card, I have a lot of log data. 11 megabytes is still nothing. You know, you could add months and months and months of log data and still not really worry about whether or not you're running out of space. And if you go up to, say, 2 gigs or 4 gigs, forget about it. Like, you just forget about it. It would take forever to fill that up with just something as simple as log data. The only real way you're going to fill that up is if you use stuff like music. If you put, and you can, by the way, you can put music on the radio and we'll actually play it. So if you do that, you could fill up the card pretty quickly. But if you start doing that, just be aware of it, right? In that case, you might want a bigger card. All right, so that was it on the data portion. Now, what I want to do is bring up OpenTX and sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a cough here. What I wanted to do is bring up Companion and take a look at a couple logs. And I wanted to show you guys just a couple of techniques for utilizing the log. We're not going to go through a bunch of logs And, you know, I'm not going to say, look at this one and look at this one. You know, I'm not going to do that. But what I did want to do, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to show you, first off, I wanted to show you that logging is important. And if you're not logging, you need to be, because it's built into the radio. I'll show you a technique for turning it on that makes a lot of sense. But if you turn it on, logging has the ability at the end to allow you to go back and look at what happened in your system and determine how things are performing. And it is, I can't even stress enough how important it is when especially if you're having problems with an RF link, but even if you're not having problems with an RF link. But I can't stress enough how important it is to have your logging turned on, because if something creeps up while you're flying and you don't know what's going on, the logging data will help you sort it out. And so to me, it's essential to log, right? So all I wanted to do is just give you a couple of techniques and show you a couple of little tricks in the log viewer. So I have Companion for EdgeTX, and it works the same with OpenTX Companion. So if you're on OpenTX, it works the same. But I have the Companion for EdgeTX. I'm just going to click this little button right here that says View Log File. Let me turn my mouse highlighter on so you guys can see where my mouse is, right there. You click on this little button right here, the log button, and then as I showed you, I copy a lot of my stuff to my desktop, right? So it's on my computer. So I'll hit Open Log File, and I'm just going to navigate to one of the flights from today, and I flew the Avanti. Let's do that one. I did a 12 o'clock flight with the Avanti, and there's the log data. Now, in the log viewer, you don't really need Companion. Oops, I guess you can't minimize just Companion. You have to keep that open. That's fine. We can rearrange the windows a little bit. There we go. So in the log viewer, once you log it, over here on the left-hand side, if you're not familiar with this, these are all the items that are being logged. So you can see we've got our channel data. So this is channels 1 through 32. There's TXBAT in there at the bottom. And then we've got our sliders, our switches. If you want to see where a switch was during a flight, you can say, well, there you go. There's my SB switch, which is my rates. So you can see in my flight right here, this shows you when I switched from low rates to high rates. So very simple thing. You can figure these things out if you're logging. If you're not logging, you can't do this. Boy, I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on with this cough. It just, of course, you know, it's during a live stream. It creeps up. So anyway, this one has a Hobby Eagle in it. So my SC switch is my wind rejection mode. And you can see that I had that in the middle position. So I had my wind rejection on, or my stabilizer on, the entire flight. So SC is in the middle position here. There you go. It was on the whole flight. This would let you know, did I have my gyro on? Did I not have my gyro on? If something goes wrong, right? It will help you. So here's another one. Let's go up and look at RT power. So this is a flight with the Avanti, and this flight looks like it was 7 minutes. Look at that. It's 12:03 to 12:09, 6:06 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer because I started ahead of 12:03 and I ended after 12:09. So see what I mean? I'm telling you guys, this Avanti is pretty good. But if you look at this graph, what you see is one solid line at 10 milliwatts. So this is a terrible example because we didn't have any fluctuation in power. So 10 milliwatt, I mean, it's great for ExpressLRS, right? Because it shows you that even with a single antenna, 10 milliwatts, and I was doing big air stuff with this plane today. I was doing some real big air stuff. So I was up there, way up there, and 10 milliwatts. I love ExpressLRS, man. It's just, it is absolutely the way to go as far as I'm concerned. No two ways around it. All right, so next thing I wanted to do though, in addition, let me see, you know what? I want to see if I can find a different file that might show a little bit of movement on T-power, okay? So I just loaded up a flight. There we go. There's a flight with the laser. Now we can see some movement on T-power. And what we've got here on the laser is 10 milliwatts, and we see a bump up to 25, and then back down to 10, and then up to 25. Okay. So now here we go. Now we can start looking at the radio data, and this is why the logging is so important and why understanding things like RSSI and signal noise ratio and your link quality come into play. So when I'm evaluating logs, the first thing I like to do is look at T-power and see if I have anything alarming. And the answer in this video is no, I do not. I do not have anything alarming here because even though I had a couple of spikes to 25 milliwatts, that's still nothing. It's not like it went up to 250 and held it there for 3 minutes, right? So Nothing. There's nothing going on there. So my first observation in looking at this data is no problem. All right, that's the first thing, because we only hit 25 milliwatts a couple of times. They were probably while I was climbing. But here's one way you can tell, when did it happen? Here, let me show you. By clicking on your control key on a Windows computer or your command key on a Mac, you can then click on a secondary item and you can display more than one thing on the graph. So what I'm going to do is click on my throttle over here. And you can see when I click on the throttle, sometimes the throttle will give you an indicator of what happened. Now, if I had an altimeter, it would really, really be helpful. But what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see, these are all throttle hits. So you can see that when the red bar goes up, that's throttle. And when the red is down, that's off throttle. And then when the red is somewhere around the middle in the 0, that's about idle. So you can see on the jet, I was actually punching it. I told you I was flogging the plane, right? I told you guys that. But I don't see anything in here in terms of throttle that indicates why I might have had a T-power hit. I don't see any direct correlation to throttle and T-power, so I don't think it was altitude related. It had to have been attitude related. So we can get rid of throttle and say, okay, that didn't help us. What happens if we look at RQLY? And let's bring that up. So RQLY, ooh, look at that. Now we're starting to see something. So what I'm doing to scroll, by the way, guys, I'm using my mouse wheel. I use my mouse wheel and hold control. Now, if I don't want to zoom on both, I can say I just want to zoom on X. I'm going to reset, and I'll say I want to zoom on X only. So now when I hit the mouse wheel, you can see all I'm doing is spreading out my horizontal axis. Okay. Now you can see. Look at this. Here's RQLY. It dropped down. We were sitting up here. Remember the book. Remember what the book said is if you're cruising around, you've got good RQLY or link quality, and then there's a sudden drop, then T-power is adjusted to reflect that. Look at the exact alignment between link quality and T-power. You see how right in this section right here, link quality drops down to 84, which is still 84%. And if I'm flying at 333 hertz on 8 channel, that's 80. Someone can do the math for me. It's 84% of 333 packets per second. Okay? Per second. So no problem with the data, no problem here at all. But you can see a very direct correlation between the link quality dropping and then the radio saying, whoops, let's jack the power a little bit. I don't like that. But it only jacked it one step. It only brought it up to 25 milliwatts. And then when the link quality zoomed back up here to basically 100, right? Then look what happened to transmit power. Transmit power dropped back down to 10 milliwatts. And then we see that until it repeated right here. This is the power of logging. This is what logging allows you to do. It allows you to analyze your data. It allows you to not be a chimpanzee with a radio going, you can look at your data and understand what's going on. You can say, okay, I see what happened here. And I can guarantee you that these link quality instances were absolutely related to the attitude of the aircraft, because I only have a single antenna, which means, and I've said this before, the orientation of your antennas matters. If you have your antenna aimed like this, and by the way, I aim my antenna either at my forehead or I aim it off to the side like that, okay? Because I want that donut going out. So if I have my antenna like this, that means the pattern radiates like a donut off the antenna, right? And it goes outward. Now, if my airplane antenna is in the same plane, say this is the T antenna in my model, and it's in the same plane, that's when your signal to noise ratio is going to be the highest. Or sorry, not the highest. That's when your link quality and your RSI are going to be the best. Now, if you get out of phase, so that let's say while you're flying, your antenna winds up in a vertical plane and your ground station is still in a horizontal plane, that means your cross section happens right here. It's a very small, it kind of looks like this. It looks like that. That's the cross section. So where the antenna, the base station antenna overlays the in-air antenna, that's the cross section where there's a reception. And ExpressLRS still works, but your link quality can potentially drop a little bit, and your noise floor will increase your signal to noise ratio, because now there's a smaller gap between what the noise floor is and the loudness of the signal coming into the aircraft, okay, when you're out of phase like that. But when you're in phase, that's when it's the strongest. So that's why I say it all the time. A lot of times when I see these types of issues, what I'm looking at is the orientation of the craft. And I can tell you that if you're climbing way high up in the sky and you're doing maybe some rolls or loops, you are going to put that antenna out of phase. It's going to happen. So it's a fact. But the point is that the logging can help you determine these things. Okay. Now, let's get off the radio stuff for just a minute. So that's radio information. Let's also take a look at something else. This is another topic that came up in conversation today or during the week, looking at data logs, and that is power. So here you can take a look at my power levels on my jet. This is the Avanti, and you can see the movement. You know, I have up and down, up and down. All of these little sags right here, I'm going to assume are related to the application of power. So one way we can check that is by hitting our control key and bringing in throttle. So if we bring in throttle, look at this. You can see an alignment wherever. Let me turn throttle back off. So this little green section where it drops right here, that's voltage sag. That is voltage decreasing. It's sagging. Okay. So if I bring in my power, what I'm going to wind up seeing is that the voltage sag occurs during the application of power. So you can monitor and check and see, hey, is this behaving the way I expect it to behave? So we can do that by looking at the log. I'll bring power back in again. And you can see right here, guys, when I'm off power, here's a power reduction all the way down to 0. And look at the corresponding change in my voltage. It climbs up to 2.4, right? Then when I start applying power and I bring that power up to 600, look what happens. As I bring that power up, the voltage starts to sag. It comes right down here and sags and sags and sags until I reach my peak throttle. And then when I bring the throttle back down, right here, when I bring that throttle back down, look what happens to the voltage. It screams back up. All right. Isn't that cool? So the point of the matter is that the logging can help you evaluate what's going on with your craft. It can give you an idea of what kind of voltage sag you have. Now, what I would do, because this is the laser, what I would do is probably spend a little time looking at other logs and saying, is that normal? You know, is that normal? In fact, let's go ahead and bring up the Avanti log again. I'll bring that one up. We'll do the same thing. I'll bring up the RxBat. And you can see same thing. We have these steps, right? We've got these steps, and I'll bring the throttle in and we'll see, yep, there it is. As the throttle goes up and up and up, the sag occurs. When the throttle goes up right here, the voltage sags down here. You see they're a mirror. It's a direct inverse relationship. Throttle goes up, voltage goes down. And then when the throttle comes off, this is the throttle coming all the way down to nothing, then the voltage jumps back up. Okay, so these tools, these logging tools, there's all kinds of different ways you can use them. And what I would suggest to you is learn how to use them together. You learn how to use data points together, right? You want to learn how to look at multiple data points together to find justification for what you're seeing. Looking at just one thing by itself, like RQLY, it can be anecdotally interesting, but it may not answer your questions. So this is RQLY. Does that really answer anything? What happens if I look at my signal to noise ratio? Well, check that out. When my RQLY drops down here to 86, look at my signal to noise ratio. It also drops down to 5.6. So there is a correlation between signal to noise ratio. That tells you that that was a change in your antenna orientation, right? Because it's just what it is. It happens because the antennas get out of phase. So that's what you're looking for. It's called corroborating evidence. You're trying to corroborate the data, and that's the trick. So logging, super important. Now, with that done, I want to show you a couple things on the radio. So that's it. That's all we're going to do there on that topic. But I wanted to show you a couple little quick tricks on the radio that are also related to logging. The first one is I want to show you how to turn logging on, because if you don't know how to do that, then you know that's not cool. You gotta be able to turn logging on. So let's switch. There it is. Let's switch down. Now for logging, what I like to do is I use a logical switch for. This came up when we were talking. I think we were talking about logging. I think that's where it first came up. So I used to just have logging on a switch. I used to just put it on a straight switch and say, when I arm my plane, start logging. But the reason I didn't like that ultimately is because if I'm sitting here on my bench and I arm this, you know, I want to test something out and I turn my arm switch on, I don't want this to be logged. I don't need this to be logged. It's just junk. You know, logging doesn't matter. So in that, when this conversation happened, Peter from the Edge team got on our Discord and said, I like to use telemetry. I use telemetry along with arming. And I thought about that. I was like, man, that is so genius, because now what I do is I create a logical switch. My logical switch is right here. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it. I want to make sure you can see what's going on here. All right, so here's my logical switch. And what my logical switch says, it's an AND switch that says when the telemetry is present and the arm switch is in the unlocked state, when I disarm the craft, when that happens, I want L05 to go active. So that is my logical switch that I use. And then all we have to do then is, oh, look at this. I didn't switch this one. Oh, good. So this is something we get to fix. We're going to click on this and hit edit, and we're going to change this from SH, and we're going to put it down on that L05. How about that? I didn't have this turned on the Avanti, huh? I'll be darned. Okay, so there's the logical switch, and all the logical switch says is when L05, remember, L05 is the one that says when we have telemetry and we're unlocked. When L05 goes active, turn on the SD logs and run it every half a second. And that's it. That's it. That's all I do on this in this scenario, and that gives me logging on the radio. Okay, so if you didn't know how to turn logging on, that's how you do it. And then after we've done that, the other thing I wanted to show you is another tool that's available on the radio. And I actually use this quite a bit. And this is one of the tools by Offer Shmuley. It is a Lua script. If you press System and go into the System tool, you can look at your log viewer. And this takes just a minute to load up, so we'll be patient, let it load up. But the reason I like this tool, we'll do today's flights. The reason I like this tool so much is because, especially for a maiden, when I go maiden an aircraft at the field, I really like being able to pull this tool up after the maiden and taking a look at the data. I like to see what the aircraft saw. I like to get an idea in terms of data, what happened during the flight. And with this tool, I can see that on the radio at the field. I don't need to bring a laptop. Now you might say, well, why does it matter for a maiden? And that's because when you first put a receiver in service, we know the transmitter's good. It's kind of been tested with multiple flights. But when we put the receiver in service, you want to make sure that you're getting the communications that you're supposed to get. You want to make sure you're getting the results you're supposed to get. And it's a good idea during a maiden, after you first use a receiver, to take a look at the data and make sure it's doing what you expected to do. Like you didn't have permanent T-power hits, you didn't have permanent RQLI problems, you didn't have signal noise ratio issues. You know, those are all important aspects. So it does take a little bit of time to index. I know we've talked about this a little bit. He's made a couple of little changes, but still for some reason it's still clocking. It's almost done. But anyway, I like using this tool because what it allows me to do after maiden is go look while I'm at the field. And I can make a determination, hey, it's okay to keep flying, or whoops, I have a radio problem. I should investigate that, maybe not fly anymore until I get it sorted out. So while this is loading, oh, there it goes. It's done. All right. So we'll pick, we'll just leave. I'm not going to use the Avanti. I'll use the laser because we saw some movement on the laser. And then we'll hit the page right, and we can choose the things we want to look at. So I'm going to take RSSI off. I don't really want to see that. I just want to see RQLY and T-power. So those are the only two I'm going to leave on there for now. And I'll hit page right, and it'll parse the data out. This part's actually pretty quick. Hobie says 8 flights today. That's it. Yeah, man, that's it. 8 flights. And there we go. So there's the data. And you can see right away, doesn't this look similar to what you saw on the screen, right? 3 hits of T-power from 10 milliwatts to 25. And that gives you an idea of how the flight went. So I love this tool because while I'm at the field, I can look and see, is everything performing the way I expect it to? And you don't have to do deep packet inspection here. You know, that's not the argument. The argument is that you can just look really quickly and see, do I see any problems? And the answer is no, I don't see any problems here. And then, you know, I'll keep flying. So that's it. Those are a couple things on logging I just wanted to show you guys. So we covered, a little bit about the key elements that you can look for in radio data logging and why they matter. We talked about that. And then we talked about actually looking at log data on Companion and looking at the log viewer. And we talked about turning logging on the radio. And then we talked about how you can look at your logging on the radio itself so you don't have to bring a computer with you to the field, especially when you're looking at a new receiver. So I hope that was useful to you. And I know, you know, this is the PilotJam. This is where we get a little bit geeky about stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that and you found that useful. So I'm going to check comments and then we will we'll move on. Let's see here. I managed to get every single comment highlighted. Let's see what is going on here. I'm going to look. We're probably going to scroll through a lot because you guys talked a lot while I was just going through this. Everything goes right back into the channel. Okay, so Discord. Robert posted a link to Discord. Definitely, guys, get on Discord. I can't stress that enough. I get a lot of emails still. To this day, I get people sending me email, and I'm going to stop answering email and just saying, go to Discord. Because the reason for that is because if you get on Discord, then everybody benefits from the conversation. If it's on email, then only I and you benefit from the conversation. So my answer, if you send me email for technical help, it's going to be get on Discord and let's do it there. All right, let's see. Patrice says, thanks for the solution for Channel 5 for the new ER8. You're welcome. Glad to help. Bradley Norton, nothing but problems as Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft is, yeah. My personal computer is a Mac. That's what I use for my day-to-day. But, you know, I use Microsoft Windows because so many things in the hobby are related to Windows. So if you don't have Windows, things like the A3 Super 4, you won't be able to configure it. And I know you can do parallels in Boot Camp and Mac, but I just have a Windows desktop. That way I don't have to fuss around with it too much. Feels like every night with my wife. Oh, Robert said, Hobie, you have no opinion. That feels like every night with my wife. Yeah, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. For the new guys, if you like all the effort John puts into the channel, please think about supporting him on Patreon for his little street. Thanks for that plug, Hobie. Yeah, if you guys don't mind, patreon.com/RC Video Reviews for as little as $3. I've got a tier for, it's like a cup of coffee. It's like a Starbucks. So if you want to help out, you know, help me bring new material and content to the channel, that's a good way to do it. And I appreciate you guys. And for the patrons, I do want to give a little shout out to all my existing patrons too. Thank you guys so much for what you do to help support the channel. I'm very grateful for that. Let's see. Everything goes back into the channel. That's right. Hobie says revenue from the channel goes into the channel, and that is a fact. I save it and spend it on the channel, whether it's equipment, AV gear, cameras. You know, it's a lot of, you know, the camera that I bought, I talk about this a lot. The camera that I got for the channel, I would have never bought that. My iPhone for me, for personal use, is good enough. But for the channel, it wasn't good enough. So, you know, the camera, it's a couple $1,000s with the camera and the gear. It wasn't cheap, and the channel did that. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the support you guys offer by signing up on patreon.com. So thanks for that. Let's see, Gators. Hobie's talking about Gators again. I swear, Hobie, I swear to God, I will find you. I'm just kidding. I love Hobie, man. He's a good friend. Robert says, if Hobie got timed out because he's giving away scores, that's link quality also. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're going to put him in the box of shame. Tough crowd. I'm the transmitter and I control the power. Robert, okay, your signal noise, a little bit of jibber jabber. That's all good stuff. Robert's taking a nap. Fred's watching. Hey, Fred, I flew the M2 Evo today. I was practicing hovering. I did some inverted hovering. I did some nose in hovering. I was rusty. I did fly the M2 Evo today. I can tell you guys about flying helicopters, man. You got to stick with it. If you don't stick with it, you get rusty fast. Same with fixed wing. It's true on fixed wing too. Little one-on-one said, John said OpenTX, and I heard a dust ball flowing through. That's pretty, like the westerns with that weed, the tumbleweed goes flying through the scene. Yeah, that's funny. Let's see. Tender 2. What plane did John lose and didn't have logging turned on? That was the laser. I think it was the laser I didn't have logging turned on. Pretty sure that was the one. Fast Freddy says, I'm just now getting acquainted with the touchscreen on EdgeTX, but I still love and use OpenTX. Yeah, we're going to cover that. We have some stuff to talk about there, Freddy. Hopefully, I hope, Fred, you're ready to go flying again, man. You got to let me know. I'll hook up with you tonight, man. We'll find out. I want to hear from you. Let's see. Stop coughing and start doing something else. I guess, man. Maybe. Let's see. Patrice Duquesne, I'll watch the rest in replay. It's 02 a.m. in the a.m. That's dedication. Thanks for watching this long. All right. looking for anything that I need. Robert says he has some pretty sweet widgets too. Yes, he does. Robert's referring to Offer Shmooly. Check out his GitHub. He does have some pretty cool widgets. He makes some neat stuff, and he's really trying to. He's very thoughtful about extending the functionality of the radio through widgets and Luas. So yeah, definitely check him out. Where do you get that Lua? I will post the link in the description after the video is over. But if you just do a Google search for Offer Shmooly, it's SCHMULEY, I think. I always butcher his last name. You'll find him. He's on GitHub. But I will put a link in the description after the video is over. Bradley says, logging stuff was great. Thanks, John. Good topic to cover. Now I can see how much advantage is the LRS gives the pilot. Yeah. Logging, I can't. Logging, you guys got to log. You got to turn the logging on. It is such a useful tool to diagnose what's happening. I think the question we had earlier on Discord was about voltage, and we looked at the log, and I saw some voltage movement that I was like, wow, that's really strange looking. I would investigate that. I think he might have had an open short or something, but I mean, the logging just unveils things that it can be very difficult to diagnose without log data, put it that way. Let's see. VNM, I can't say that. He says, how much does a real turbine RC jet cost? Like half the size. I can tell you when we were at Jets over Lakeland, we were looking at some of the turbine engines, and I think like the low end, they were $4,000, I think. That doesn't count, of course, the model itself. So, John, you ever want to stop coughing during a stream? Just take, what do you say? Take X last. I guarantee you won't cough. Robert, that is nasty, man. That's just wrong. No, I won't be doing that either. I was born at night, dude, but not last night. What the heck? Okay. You got to watch your friends, man. Look what they do to you. They're messing with you. Okay, that's it for the comments. Let's move on to the next topic. Oh, merch. Oh, yeah. Merch. I wanted to show you guys this one. I thought I had it on the webpage, but I don't. But that's okay. I can find it. Sorry, I'm just bringing up a URL. I wanted to show you guys this tonight because I was actually flattered and honored when the EdgeTX team asked me if I could help them out with merchandise. And it had mainly to do with the fact that in Europe, all the taxes get a little nuts. And they said, hey, could you source merchandise for EdgeTX? And I said, I would absolutely love to. So I just wanted to show you guys, they just put this up on the edgetx.org website. If you're looking for EdgeTX gear, we've teamed up with our trusted friend, John. Look at that. How cool is that, man? We've teamed up with our trusted friend, John from RC Video Reviews to offer you a fantastic selection of EdgeTX gear. John's an authorized supplier of EdgeTX merchandise with our full endorsement. Plus, a generous portion of every purchase goes directly towards supporting EdgeTX, and that's true. We're doing a profit share deal, so they're getting, you know, a good bit of the revenue goes to the EdgeTX team. I get to keep some to help for my efforts, you know, doing the work and getting the material up and all that stuff. So if you'd like to support the Edge team, this is another way you can do it, and you can get some pretty cool merch out of the deal. And by the way, I'm open to ideas. You know, right now I've got a hat, a mug, a shirt. It says my co-pilot is EdgeTX. Another coffee mug with Eddie the Edgehog, and a hat, a ski hat. Winter's coming. Get yourself an EdgeTX hat. It's got Eddie the Edgehog on there. So I've got some merch out in the store. If you want to go get that, it will help the EdgeTX team. They benefit and they profit from sales of this merchandise. And I just want to say thanks to the Edge team. I'm honored to be involved in helping, you know, doing what I can for Edge, and that's running Edge merchandise through my store. So I'm really honored to be able to do that. And I want to say thanks to the Edge team for allowing me to be part of the program. So that's it. Hobie says, that's awesome. Nice torque. Nice toque on the end. You're talking about the hat, the ski hat? I don't know. I hope that's what he's talking about. Anyway, also remind you guys that if you visit my store, I also have merch as well for RC Video Reviews, and I've actually added some new stuff lately. Here's a little die cut sticker if you want to buy a sticker, EdgeTX sticker for your field box. You can do that. Here's a team jersey. This jersey's a little expensive. I do understand that, but it's not. This is like a nice shirt. It's a team shirt, and there's a couple of different options. So if you want a yellow one, you can do that. If you want a pink one, say you're, you know, a guy that gives away football scores and you need a pink shirt, you could wear that one. And there's a gray one and there's a white one. So these are kind of nice. I fly with EdgeTX and then EdgeTX on the side. So a nice little team jersey if you want to get yourself one of those. But anyway, EdgeTX stuff on the store. And let's go back. And of course, I've got, the RC video reviews stuff out there as well. Okay. So make sure you visit the merch store and get yourself a t-shirt, mugs, whatever. If you want to support the project, that's a good way to do it too. Robert says, definitely, John, you should look into that. A neck strap. A neck strap? A neck strap? I need a neck strap. A trick neck strap would be nice. A trick neck strap. Are you guys saying an embroidered neck strap? Is that what you're saying? Maybe. Takes a man to wear pink, says Hobie. Yeah, that's right. It does take a man to wear pink. I don't wear pink. My wife has been trying to talk me into it for a long time, and I don't do it. I don't do it. So you're right. Got to be secure in your manhood. That's for damn sure. Chick with Stick says, I want pink. Go get it, girl. It's out there. It's on the channel. Go get it. It's on the merch store. All right. Let's see. Hobie is flirting with danger. He's talking about W or L. Just dangerous. Dangerous stuff, Hobie. All right. Q&A is next. If you guys haven't been around, I know a lot of you guys have been around. So Q&A, what I do in Q&A is I try and find things that some people might find interesting. If I see a question in here that looks interesting to me and might be interesting to other people, I try and pop it up here in the Q&A section. I'm going to try and expand this a little bit. It seems like no matter how hard I try, these graphics always get rearranged right before a live stream. All right, question number 1 came from SGLib9474. He said, hey, thanks for the video. Do you guys remember watching the video? And I'm like, what the hell? The 128 gig drive mounted instantly. He asked a couple of questions about smaller block sizes and partitions. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But he said, oh, and one other thing, the reason it mounted so quickly is because you actually plugged in a 2 gigabyte card. And I was like, what? I went back and looked, and let's see. There is the picture from the video. Check that out. He was right. And what was weird about this, I'm going to try and resize this a little bit more. There it is. There's the iDrive at 1 gig. That was during the video. And I'm sitting here on this live stream going, why did that thing mount so fast? It's because I put in a 1 gig card. The weird part about it is that right after it mounted, I clicked on it and went into the folder structure. So this frame was only up for like a millisecond. It was very short. So I want to go back and give SGLib9471 a gold star on the day, because he said, yeah, by the way, you put the wrong card in. And he was right. Because I'm like on this live stream going, why did this thing mount so fast? I don't understand. All day long, I've been watching this thing take time to mount when it's a big partition above 4 gigs. It was taking time. I clocked it with a stopwatch. I was so frustrated with that because I'm on a live stream. Like, why is this happening? So anyway, I'm going to answer his question because he pointed that out. And I'm like, yep, he found an error. And I want to respond to his questions. He says, let's go with this question. Your conclusion was to use a 4 gig partition, but early in the video, you made the point that 256 is plenty big. So why not go with a smaller partition? If you remember at the end of the video, I said I was going to try that. I hadn't tried it during testing up to the point of the video. But I said near the end, I said, the real answer is to get the smallest partition you can. That's what I said. And I also said that I would be trying that. And on my own radio, I used 2 gigabytes. So that's what I did. Now you get to a point of diminishing returns, right? If you can go from 2 gigs to 1 gig or to 512, but instead of loading or mounting in 6 seconds, it mounts in 5 seconds or 5.5. Are you really going to have a practical difference in that? No, you're not. So that's why going much smaller doesn't make much sense. So right now I've got it on 2 gigs. The thing mounts, and I'll show you if you guys want to see it. I'd be happy to show you, but you can watch the video with a 2 gig partition. It mounts pretty much instantly, which is what happened in the video. That was a 2 gig partition. So 2 gigs, fine. And then he says 512 is probably plenty big and would mount faster, right? Yes, technically it would, but again, diminishing returns. He said you showed the block size larger than 4K are bad. That is true because of the hardware issue. If you go above 4K, you have to do more than one USB read and write request for every action. So that's totally not efficient. But what about smaller block sizes? Problem with going smaller is that in the smaller block sizes, then Windows starts to get really slow. So if you try and do rewrites in Windows, you start to get really slow. However, if you don't care about Windows, it probably would be worth experimenting with those smaller block sizes because the file sizes on the radio themselves are very small. So if you can make the read less than a 4 kilobyte buffer, it might make the radio perform even a little bit faster. For example, one place that might matter is when you press the model button and load up your model images. That's a potential. But I would also pay attention to the file size. I think the file size for the images on the radio are about 25 kilobytes. So yeah, it might be worth trying a smaller one. Just throwing it 25 kilobytes. No, it's 4 kilobytes. Stick with 4. Yeah, if you're loading up images and you go lower than 4, then you have a lot more read requests. So no, in that case, no, it would be better to be at 4K. All right. So anyway, bottom line is experiment. That's the bottom line is experiment. Now you guys know how to do it. You saw the tool. You saw how to change your block size. You saw how to do the testing. Experiment. Try it out. What I can tell you in my own use case, the best result seems to have come by using the 4 gig 4K block size. That gave me the best overall result where I can copy things quickly from Windows to the radio and where the radio remained highly responsive. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. But SGLib definitely gets a gold star for bailing me out because somehow I managed to put in a 2 gig card instead of the 128. So thanks for that call out, man. I appreciate it. THLDQ, he says, hi, John. This video is very interesting on the Windows side, but on the TX, we just covered this. But what about the TX16X side? How does the card size, the format, the cluster size affect the radio? So when it comes to mounting, it doesn't matter. The radio seems to mount whatever partition fairly quickly. I haven't seen any delays, no matter how big I made the partition for mounting. So the radio seems to do that quite well. But I can say going greater than 4K, absolutely don't do it. And we just discussed going smaller than 4K. That would create probably a lot more read-write overhead when you're doing things like loading up your list of models. So for that reason, I wouldn't go lower than 4K either because the image, let's just check. Rather than talk, let's just check. I'm going to plug the radio in. We'll take a look. But just remember, if your block size is 4 kilobytes, that's a 4 kilobyte buffer. That's how much it can read at a time. So if I bring this up here, we'll bring up the workspace and I'm going to hide this little 2 gig thing. We're going to turn on the camera. There's the overhead camera. And what I'm going to do is highlight. So I'm going to highlight this and hit SD and you'll see it mount on Windows. It should come up pretty quick. Just a few seconds. There it is. See what I mean? That's the mount time. And then I'll show you guys too under this PC. This is my iDrive. See, it's 2 gigs. Can you see? I hope you can see that, but it is 2 gigs. That's a 32 gig card with a 2 gig partition. I'm doing that for speed because I don't need the space. I need the speed. I want it to be fast. Okay, so let's look at the image size. If I click on images and then we'll just take a look at, yeah, these are all, I was right. It's about 29 kilobytes, 24, 26, 17, 20. So the problem is if you go less than 4, say you go down right now, if I were to read this image in, the ASW28, that would take minimally 4 USB cycles to do it because it's 16 kilobytes. Okay. So if you go lower than 4 kilobytes, now you increase the number of read writes you have, and that's not something you want to do. So I'll do another thing too. Since we're looking at it, I'm just going to unplug this. And this is a test you can run. What I would do if you really wanted to like really drill down on block size, this is what I would do. Format with a 4K block size, press and hold the model button, and then take your today label off, and then see what happens as you start scrolling. Look for things like jitter and lag and delay in that screen. Because every single time you load up a picture, it's doing a read. It's taking that picture off your SD card and showing it to you. And I have a feeling that if you made, say, a 1 kilobyte block size or a 512 byte block size, that this would take a lot, this would stutter. That's what I would expect. That's what I would expect. I'm not guaranteeing it, but that's what I would expect. Okay? So anyway, that's a good place to test that kind of thing because these are all like 25 kilobytes. They're probably some of the largest files on the radio. If you want, we can take a look at sounds too, just for the sake of being thorough. Let's go back to the workspace. And Windows didn't recognize it for some reason. Maybe I didn't plug it in right. Let's try that again. There we go. And we'll look under sounds, EN, And all of these, yeah, look, the sounds are actually as big as the images. 25K, 39K, they're actually bigger than some of the images. Here's 40K. Now, the reason I think this is going to be less evident to you is because sounds are not visual. So when a sound is loaded, you don't really see the radio start loading that sound. You just hear it, and you only hear it when it needs to play something. So what I would say is 4K. Based on what I'm seeing here between the images and sounds, 4K. There are other files on here you might take a look at. Like if we look at, let's look at the scripts real quick. Scripts, tools, the Lua files. Here's a Lua file, the model locator, PNG. That's a PNG, not a script. The scripts are small, 7K, so that would load really quick. Here's one, the ExpressLRS Lua is 29K. Yeah, man, I'd say 4K for sure. Based on what I'm seeing here, 4K is the answer. I wouldn't do anything less than that. That's what I would do. So that's that. We'll go back to the blackboard, and hopefully that clears all of that up. But, you know, at the end of the day, you guys, this is about testing. Now that you know how to do it and you know what's involved, test. Try it out. And if you come up with an answer, leave a comment. Let me know what you learned. I'm curious about these things too. All right, next question from Alan. He says, hey, John, interesting information. Followed your instructions to the letter and found things have improved. Now I've noticed that when I go into the menu, everything seems to load in the right order. P.S. Don't worry about Spock and Jim. They're both down at the pub last night and seem okay. I think someone had a good time drinking at the pub is what I think. But I'm glad to know, Alan, that you're working. And I put this one up there just to let you know. I do appreciate independent validation of an outcome. So if it helped you and, you know, worked out for you, I do appreciate hearing that. By the way, that does help with the credibility on the channel when you independently verify, hey, I did this on my stuff and it worked great. So he's right. You know, that's good. It helps. You guys know how it is when you're out there reading YouTube comments, right? If somebody goes, man, this place sucks, it's stupid, you don't tend to come back. So anyway, next one was from Crash Gordon. He says, I'll be darned. When I upgraded 2.8, I started getting choppy audio on the first wave track that would play. Then I switched to a model. I assumed it was a 2.8 bug. After swapping to a good SD card and formatting it as you suggested, everything plays smoothly. There you go. See, this is the kind of the joy that I get out of running the channel, right? When I see people solve problems and have things start working better as a result of material I put out there, that makes me happy. I'm glad to see that. So I'm glad Crash got working there. Mike G, he says, any word from ExpressLRS team they might change the behavior of the other full res modes to allow proportional on channel 5, or is that coming? Again, some kind of limitation. You know, you only have 16 divided by 2 and 8 channel are the only ones you get the fully proportional stuff outside the first 4 channels. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's like a hybrid mode. And I don't remember the rules on that one off the top of my head, but in the hybrid mode, there's some, like, I don't know, it's like channel 6 is proportional, and then they start stepping it down. Like after that, channel 7 is like 8-bit or something, you know, so they're like that. But honestly, to be perfectly frank on the answer to this one, I really don't think it matters. If you have a 16 divided by 2 at 166 hertz for line of sight fixed wing, that's all you need. I mean, I can't imagine why you would need more than that. I've flown everything. I mean, I've flown pretty much everything. I've flown quads, helicopters, very long range FPV with pan and tilt, dynamic power, video camera switching, gimbals, head tracking. You know, I've done it all. I've flown jets with gear and retracts, complex configurations on gliders with crow and spoilerons. You just don't need more than that. I mean, for me, I think if I got more than 16 channels, I would probably forget. I try to remember what 16 different things do at one time would be in one flight. I've done it once. I had one plane in all my configurations where I needed that, and it was a handful to remember. It really was. So I just don't think it's necessary to be answered. That's my answer to that. Now, what I do hope they do with channel 5 is make it assignable. So I hope they say, listen, you can put ARM anywhere you want. That would be ideal. That's what I have my fingers crossed for. But as far as proportionality, full res modes, I think 16 divided by 2 is just fine. Remember, if you're in 8 channel mode, it's 8 proportional. So you get channels 1, 2, 3, 4 are proportional. 5 is binary. And then 6, 7, 8, 9 are also proportional. That one really should be renamed 8.1 because you get 8 fully proportional plus your binary, which is .1. All right, Andrew Jamez says, hi there. Is it Andrew Hemez? Hemez, maybe? Andrew Hemez? I don't know. Hi there. Is there a roadmap to 3.0? Yeah, that's another one that I wanted to pop out here for you guys. Let's do, I'm going to bring up the EdgeTX. Let's see here. EdgeTX. I had it bookmarked. Yeah. Here we go. Nope. Give me a second. I'm trying to find this thing on their website. Looks like they may have changed it a little bit. I'm trying to find it. Huh. I'll be darned. I can't find the milestone page. It used to be under 4 developers. Let's see if I can find it in the wiki, maybe. Huh. Give me a minute. Hang tight with me, guys. I'm gonna find it. I've had this bookmarked. I don't know how I managed to not have it ready to go. I'm looking. I don't know. They hit it, man. I used to be able to navigate directly to it. It's been moved. There was a section in here that said 4 developers, and that is gone. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay, good. I can share it with you now. It's dev info. I knew it was in there somewhere. Hold on here. Control C. There we go. Okay, now I can show it. Sorry about the delay. That was embarrassing. I couldn't seem to locate. It was up here. It was up here at the top. They used to have it in this little section right here. It said 4 developers. Anyway, there's a roadmap. I will put this in the description for you as well, so you don't have to hunt for it. But if you go to edgetx.org/devinfo, there's a roadmap, so you can see what they have planned. And what they have planned, we are on 2.9 right now. So what's coming up for 2.10, unified targets. By the way, there's a huge ADC refactor going on right now that allows them to unify targets. So just kind of cleans up the code a little bit for them. So that's on the way. That's coming. New app select screen. So my understanding is that there's going to be a GUI change where, think about your phone, right? Where you have applications on your phone. So instead of maybe navigating around with the traditional buttons the way we do today, you might have these buttons on your screen that you can click on. It's kind of like an app on a phone. Mavlink support, further migration steps to support next generation's MCUs. And then one big thing, no new radios with STM32 F2 MCUs anymore. So no more F2s. That's it. They're ending support for those. And then in 3.0, they're looking for a complete migration to STM32 with H7 MCUs. That's big news. If you understand the MCU space, that's a much more powerful processor. So that's coming in summer 2024. New UI navigation with configurable OS features based on model type, changed to Lua 5.3, revamped Lua API, Lua cross compiler. So a lot of stuff coming up. If you're curious about these things, but to answer the question, yes, there is a roadmap out there. Sorry again for the delay finding it. I will make sure to put that in the description for you guys though. All right, Riz Hassan says, can we use EdgeTX for free flight competition, meaning setting up throttle such that it becomes disabled after 10 seconds of flight? What you guys need to learn how to do are edge switches. So the answer to that question is absolutely yes. All you need to do is create an edge switch that becomes active after 10 seconds. So, and you can pair that with something like a sticky switch. So once the edge switch activates, sticky goes on, and you can do a throttle override based on that. So yeah, there are definite ways to do overrides on the radio. Very simple question of picking up and spending a little time working with edge switches and sticky switches. So no problems there. Poundy said OpenTX. This is where we get into the OpenTX video. OpenTX is dead video, and I was really impressed with the number of people who came in and said, "No, man, I'm still on OpenTX and I'm not changing." OpenTX is a great starting place. Sad the project petered out. It has its time. We all moved on. So this guy Poundy, he says he's migrated. You know, he's moving over to EdgeTX. But for every person that said something like this, the next person said something like this one, where he said, "I still prefer OpenTX to EdgeTX. Easier and more intuitive interface, can get things done faster and easier, at least for planes. I'm not a drone guy, so I don't know what advantage Edge has in that realm, but for planes and just plain easy use, OTX is my choice. I'll buy a new radio with Edge on it. If I buy a new radio with Edge on it, I'll be flashing OpenTX." And there were 5 thumbs up on that too. So I just thought that was interesting how many people are still really dedicated to OpenTX. And again, you know, no problem. OpenTX, if that's your thing, man, you know, by all means, your money, your hobby, do your thing. Or I did see some comments that I don't care for, and one of the ones I don't care for is saying, no, EdgeTX is basically the same thing. Not even close. That's an abject lack of understanding. It's not close. It's not the same thing. They have similar core functions. So they use inputs, mixes, outputs. They have similar things. You know, sticky switches, edge switches, logic switches. A lot of the behaviors are the same. But Edge, if you go look at the comparison log, and by the way, I actually have that ready for you. If you go look at the comparison log, here's a look at that. All you have to do, by the way, is you can go into EdgeTX, and I'll open it. I'll show you how to do it. If you click on EdgeTX right here and come down to the latest release and click on it, there's an option right here on the side called Compare. And you can compare this. So 2.9, you can say, well, what's different between 2.9 and 2.85? If you click on that, you get a comparison or a list of commits between 2.85 and 2.9. And this list populates and you can just scroll down and see what they did. It's right there. But here's the bigger one. If you go compare 2.9 to 2.4, which was their first release, and this is when it basically forked from OpenTX, this list is insane. It's absolutely insane. So to say it's basically the same thing is all you're doing is showing that you have no idea what you're talking about. So absolutely incorrect to say that nothing's changed or there's nothing different. EdgeTX has introduced a great deal of change. One of them, and by the way, is related to hardware. They introduced code that fixes the scroll wheel, and then on top of that, they introduced to the manufacturer a better electric circuit to have the scroll wheel perform more accurately. So there's been a ton of change, man. So don't. You know, it's fine to have an opinion. It's fine to say I like OpenTX, but don't come in and say nothing's changed, nothing's different. I had one guy leave a comment. He goes, "I don't see the point in changing for change's sake." Well, if you can't read through this list and realize that there's more to it than change's sake, then whatever. I can't help you. You know, I can't help you. That's just I'm just gonna have to let those go. But there's a way if you want to understand what's different in EdgeTX. That's one way to go check it out. Jason says, "I finally flashed OpenTX, my OpenTX radio to Edge a couple of months ago. It was a worthwhile upgrade. I don't regret it for a minute." So you see what I mean? It's like and there are 4 thumbs up on this one. So it's like for every one that says no way, there's another one that says I'm glad I did. You know, I'm glad I made the switch. I'm personally, for myself, I'm glad I made the switch, of course. And then let's see, this one is Alba. I'm not even going to try that. 2008 Alba Ladejo. "Sir, you just saved my mental health. I was about to go back to Spectrum. Thanks for all you do." This had to do with the Channel 5 thing. I guess, you know, I could tell because I saw the questions. I saw people come in. One guy I saw come in, he said, "Hey, I'm having problems with my flaps. They either only go up or down, but they won't stop in the middle." That was the one that kind of triggered me to make the video. Because when I dug into it, I just said, "Are you using Channel 5 for your flaps and on ExpressLRS?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "What's your switch mode?" And he said, 8 channel. I'm like, "Oh, there's your problem." So that's kind of what prompted me to do the video. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to get that Channel 5 information out there. And that's it. That's the end of Q&A. So that brings us back to the desktop. And with that done, we are through the content. I'm going to go through and check comments, and then we'll probably wrap this up here. Let's see. Chit chat, flying the best we got. Big questions. Get on Discord. Yeah, get on Discord. I'm still scrolling back here. Neck strap. We're back to the neck strap. Okay. A transmitter strap with EdgeTX on it. I can do that. You need an RCVR neck strap. I can do that too. I think if they have them, I'll see if I can find them. I don't know if they have them. Let's see. Flying the best we got. That was a fun day, man. I had a good time with that. Lucas says, I just tried to buy an EdgeTX shirt and a couple of stickers, but it would only let me purchase one item at a time. The cart needs to be fixed. Huh. I'll have to check into that. That's the thing about Teespring. They kind of do all the back end stuff. So I'll see if I can figure out what's going on there, but it should allow you to buy more than one thing at a time. That's for sure. The Goblin needs its day in the sun, John. You know, I flew that Goblin, and you know what happened, Robert? I had my ExpressLRS transmitter. I launched the plane with a crossfire receiver. So I broke the motor. You know, I got to fix it. So that Goblin, that's fun. I should get that out. Let's see. It's already Florida Gator orange. That should be some kind of reason to fly it. Yeah, I love that orange, right? Poutine FPV says, if you're taking random questions, I'm setting up my Zod Copilot for the first time. It seems I don't have manual mode. Is there something I might be missing? I followed. Are you using ExpressLRS? Is it on channel 5? Are you using 8-channel mode? I mean, we just covered that. I bet that's probably it. That'd be my guess. If you're using serial stream, make sure you switch to 16 divided by 2. That's the way to do that. Let's see. No Gator scores, Hobie. I'm watching you, man. I'm watching you, Hobie. I see how you are. Flute test Dartwing. Okay. Let's see. Poutine, get on Discord. Get on Discord. That's the right thing to do. Get on Discord. I got my wing mode with 2 green constant green lights. My SC switched up in middle position appears to stabilize. And SC down, it goes into return to home mode. Yeah, get on Discord. Sounds to me like you might be on channel 5 in a serial stream. That's my guess. Didn't know there was a Discord. Will do. Yep. All right. I don't see any do EdgeTX compared to OpenTX, and I bet you it's a picture of crickets. Yeah, the sad part about OpenTX, man, is there have been no updates. No updates. Jeff says, I'd be interested to know if how SD card block size affects MCU load while writing log data during the flight. Yeah, the log data, that's a good question. Let's take a look at a log file real quick. I'll put it this way, Jeff. I log everything, and I haven't personally noticed like I haven't noticed anything disruptive. Like I think the mix calculations are probably a very, very high priority on the radio. I haven't noticed any disruptions, but since you asked, let's take a look. The desktop, let's see. It's going to cooperate with me. Workspace. So I think the log files, so this log file, 240 kilobytes. And it was, let's take a look at how long the flight was. That's the question we have to ask. I'm not going to try and figure the math out on the live stream because I'll inevitably screw it up. This is normally where I have to spend a moment. But let's just take this one. It's 282 kilobytes. So 282 kilobytes, and this flight was, let's see, this flight went from, this is the one that was 12, we'll call it 12:02:30, fair enough, and we went to 12:09:30-ish. So yeah, that was 7 minutes. That was a 7-minute flight, and we're looking at, for that log, it was a 262 kilobyte log. So let's see. I just do the math real quick. 262 kilobytes divided by 7 minutes. That's only 37K per minute. So no, I don't really think that logging is actually going to have any impact on the MCU at all. That's 37 kilobytes per minute. So if you divide that by 60, you're talking about 0.62K per second. That's nothing. That's not a problem. So all I can say is I've set mine at 0.5, and I've never been able to observe any kind of delay or problem. One thing that would be kind of cool would be a load meter, a CPU load meter. And I wonder if they could do that. That would be neat to see. I wonder if it'd be neat to see that in the logs actually. And I don't see any reason. I don't see any information about the CPU in the logs. That would be an interesting one. I'd like to know more about that. Ruby says EdgeTX touchscreen for the win. Yeah, I'm all Edge at this point. You know, I'm not going back. I'm 100% invested in Edge. Thanks for the reminder. I usually get straight away, but nearly forgot. Okay, I'm on Discord. Thanks for all the help. You're welcome. Chick with a stick. What section in Discord is your live chat? It's obvious I'm new. I don't have the live. There's a couple of channels that are voice channels on Discord that we get on and talk every now and then. But right now, I'm not in there. I'm obviously on the live stream. But I can tell you this on our Discord. We don't get too maniacal about what channel and where you post things. I mean, sometimes people will give a little guidance. Hey, if you're asking an ExpressLRS question in the helicopter channel, maybe you should ask it in the ExpressLRS channel. And the only real reason for that isn't because we're trying, you know, I'm not that guy. I don't like to moderate things that way. But the only reason we say that is because then if somebody's looking for ExpressLRS information, they can find it in the right place. That's the reason we would do that. But mostly it's not a problem. Hobie says, Chick with Stick, choose a channel that is closest to what you need help. And there you go, post in there. Hobie's got it. He's 100% right. Bradley says, good thing about the Discord, you learn from other people questions. That's right. See, Bradley, there you go. That's why I don't like the email questions. That's why I don't like direct messages to me. Listen, here's the deal. On our Discord, one of the things I do have a policy about is that we are all respectful, and we all respect the fact that everyone starts at some point. So if you have to ask questions, the only thing I can say about asking questions is try and give as much information as you can and be polite. And if you do ask for help, you have to be ready to receive it. So with that in mind, we have a very good community on Discord that are very helpful, and people are always willing to help. But yeah, we're not too particular about where. You know, don't worry too much about that. Just try and keep it clean, you know, PG-13-ish. And then unless you're in the watering hole, unless you're in the watering hole and the watering hole is 18 or over, and you have to treat the watering hole like a bar, okay? Because that's the idea. You never know what you're going to see or hear in there, but we still try and keep it clean at least, you know, like, you know, nothing nasty. But, you know, just don't worry too much about where you post stuff. Try and figure out the best you can and do the best you can. We don't get too maniacal about these things. Let's see. Bradley said, good thing about Discord. Yeah, we covered that. Mark Morgan says, I only wish Edge was available for my 9. You know, I still have a 9XR Pro. I still have that radio. You're a diehard. Yeah, if you're still using that, you are a diehard. All right. Good day. John, where's the private messages go? John is where private messages go to die. Yeah. I don't mind chatting on private messages. That's fine. You know, if you want to tell me something about your life, you know, tell me something about something you flew, that's great. But if you're going to talk about, you know, if you're going to talk about the hobby or you want to learn something about the technology, do it in the public forums and don't be embarrassed, because that's something we don't tolerate. Like you know, we poke a little fun at each other. Don't get me wrong, but it's always meant to be good spirited. It's never intended to be mean spirited. So, you know, we try, even so, we still try and keep that kind of minimal. But you know, and if we do, it's meant to be in good spirits. But yeah, don't be ashamed to ask, because everyone had to start somewhere. And that's one thing that I wouldn't allow on the Discord, is for people to be mean-spirited. We just don't have any place for that on our Discord. So that's it. That looks like the end of the comments. So with that said, I'm going to go back to the desktop and we are going to wrap this one up. So in terms of what's coming up, I mentioned last week that I got the ESC for the 85-incher. I have to put that in still. I think I'll try and do that tonight, and I'd like to try and fly it tomorrow. So I'm going to try and get that 85-incher flying with that ZTW ESC. And I also want to bring the M4 back out, because I have some things I have to work out on the M4 in terms of positional. I did not fly that one today. I just brought some other airplanes in the M2 Evo and did a little flying, but I want to get the M4 out because I really want to get that Spirit configuration posted for you guys. So I know I still owe that. I'll work on it. It's coming. But that's kind of what I have on the docket. Right now, in terms of airframes, I don't have any new airframes planned at the moment. And the main reason for that is because there's a lack of stock on Extreme Flight. I don't know what's going on over there. They had a shipping container delay. Nothing happening there. We've gone up and down on FMS, haven't we? Boy, I'll tell you what. So I think what I'll be probably doing over the next couple of weeks is flying the stuff we've already seen, getting stuff out like the Futura again, maybe getting the F-22 out again, and maybe, you know, working on stuff like that. So that's the game plan over the immediate next couple of weeks in terms of content. And I also obviously need to get a camera guy out at the field. I'm hoping Freddie is willing and able, hopefully healthy enough. But if not, we wait. You know, no pressure, Fred. No pressure. You do you, man. Get healthy first. That's the most important thing. So yeah, that's the plan coming up, is to continue is to work on that ZTWSC, get the M4 helicopter up and running. And then I also thought we'd do a preview of 2.10 because there have already actually been some changes. I flashed nightly the other day. I was actually surprised at the differences already between 2.9 and 2.10. So we may take a little preview at that at some point soon. And that's about it. That's what's coming up. So let's see. Mr. Blue Sky says EdgeTX cap order. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Jeff says add up the cost of all your RC gear, then compare it with $3 a month for Patreon support for John. Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And you guys know, all you guys have been around for a while that are on Patreon. You understand. I do spend the money on the channel, and it's not just, believe me when I tell you, it's not. Here's a funny thing about being a reviewer. I'm at a point right now where I really don't need or want any more gear. This is not about John accruing gear at this point. Believe me when I tell you that. I've got more planes that I can fly, more radios than I can fly, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying that's the nature of the job, right? You get stuff. People send you stuff for review, and I give a lot of it away. I give a lot of it away, and I sell some of it at a very reduced cost, half. So I do that in order to help, pay it forward. So I do give stuff away. And so for me, believe me when I tell you, it's not about accruing gear. At this point, I try and do the reviews so I can show you what to expect. And by the way, I would say that one other big benefit is that I do get the ability to refine down. Think about the concept of distilling hooch, right? You can go out there and get hooch, but you refine it and you refine it and you refine it, and it gets better and better and better. That's kind of what's going on with my fleet and my hardware right now, right? Is that I get a chance to compare a lot of different things, and I keep the stuff that I like the best. And I sell the stuff. It doesn't mean it's bad stuff, but I sell it or I unload it if it's not the best thing that I have. So that, and again, that's not to impugn the equipment at all, right? It's like, if I look at one plane and look at another plane, I say, well, I know between those two planes, I'll always choose that one. Then the one that I won't fly, that goes. And it's not because it's a bad airplane. It's because I just don't want it to sit around and rot. So that's one of the benefits about being a reviewer. And that's why when I say when it comes to revenue, it goes back into the channel. When I acquire this stuff, it's mainly to give me an idea of how to refine down information for you, not for me. I'm happy if I never bought, well, I can't say never, but if I didn't buy another plane or another helicopter or another quad at this point for a year, I'd probably be fine. I could probably fly everything I've got and be fine for a long time. So the review stuff, that's for you guys. And so thanks for pointing that out, Jeff. I appreciate that. The money that comes into the channel, it goes into doing things that I consider experimental. That I try and test different things so I can get an opinion about how it works, and that puts me in a position to make good recommendations. So no bashing on Discord. That's right. A little bit of light-spirited fun, but no bashing. We don't do that. Robert says, another great show. Appreciate you. Jeff says, thank you for a great show. You're welcome. Thanks, John. Great show as always. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Bradley. More flying videos. I know. I got to get that. I got to get more flying videos. I know, on the stick cam, the GoPro on the stick. That'd be fun. When I figure out how to fly perfectly, I'll put the stick cam on the radio. I should do something though, right? Can we put some pressure on Wes and Motion RC to supply John with free wing models for review? Hey, you guys could ask them. Motion's got their own channel though, so I don't know. They don't. They do their thing, but if they wanted to send stuff out, I'd be happy to look at it. I'll tell you what, FMS, they've made a big investment in the channel, and I've thoroughly enjoyed just about everything. A couple little issues here and there, but they've made a big investment, so I'm happy to do the work. Robert says it's good you got a permanent customer with Hobie. The way he flies, he's got another plane every 2 weeks. That's funny. Freddie says, I'm taking it easy this week. I had a little setback. Well, I hope you feel better, Fred. You get there when you get there, man. We'll get out flying when it's time. All right, guys, that's all I've got for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for being part of the channel, being part of the ride. I appreciate you guys being involved and interacting, and I appreciate all you do. I appreciate your participation on Discord, watching the videos, recommending the videos. It's just a great little family we've got here on RCVR, and I appreciate every one of you. And a special call out to the patrons. I really appreciate you guys for dipping into the old wallets to help out. That's all I've got for tonight. I hope you have a fantastic remainder of your weekend. Get out there and fly something. Take it easy.